Why does every recipe I try need 18 ingredients, including a jar of something paste I'll never use again, but will sit in my fridge for 9 months? I just want dinner in the oven, fast. That's why I love Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals. They send you fresh ingredients that are already chopped. All you do is put it all together and bake. That's it. No chopping, no weird leftovers, just delicious, easy-to-make meals. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Ed, you ever been to Burnley?
Burnley? No.
I was wondering what percentage chance there was that you would repeat the accent you just did before we started recording.
It's not good, is it? I mean, I've never been good at accents.
No, but I greatly appreciate the fact that for what I think is the first time in the history of the podcast, you've tried one. It's good. 303 episodes in, or whatever it is.
Yeah. I can't even do my own, own neighbourhood accent. So, isn't being a child of the world does that for you.
Isn't this your own neighbourhood's accent at the moment? How are you, Tarquin? No, hello.
Jolly good. No, it's not. Where were we? Anderlecht.
Anderlecht. We were in Anderlecht.
Anderlecht. It was not good.
The first half was great.
Yeah.
Remember the first half? It was great.
Sort of.
We completely dominated, made loads of chances. Anderlecht looked terrified. They looked like they thought they were playing, Man United as opposed to whatever it is we are now. And then at half-time, their manager seemed to say to them, you do know this is like 2017 Man United. You will be fine if you just try and play. And José Mourinho then reinforced that by trying to play, we keep what we've got with about half an hour to go. Doesn't always have good results, although we'll come on to Chelsea, where it did have good results. But over in Brussels, it kind of encouraged Anderlecht to get on the front foot. In the first half, we had 68.8% of possession, 11 aerials to 5, 7 completed dribbles to 1, 8 shots to 3. So, and their pass success rate was like under 70% within the first half. In the second half, those numbers were remarkably different. United down to under 60% possession, 7 shots to Anderlecht's 9, that being the kind of key difference. And Anderlecht's completing more successful dribbles than us in the second half. So
yeah.
That tells the story.
I'm not sure I've got any data to prove it, but, I get a sense that every time, or almost every time, José Mourinho makes a defensive-minded substitution. It's his kind of instinct, isn't it? It's like, well, we're leading, so we're going to try and hold this, which he did when he brought on Fellaini. It kind of plays negatively with this Manchester United side, and I just wonder, it obviously worked so well at Chelsea, where he did that an awful lot, especially in his first spell at the club, and Inter slightly different. A couple of famous games where he just played that way the whole game. But the kind of mentality it seems to have on this Manchester United side, which is 3 years taking a battering in terms of confidence, seems to be a bit negative, and they seem to retrench into themselves when he brings on a more defensive-minded player for an attacking one. He took off the 3 supporting attacking players in Rashford, Mkhitaryan and Lingard, and only Martial was a like-for-like, the other 2 more defensive-minded, and it seemed to just pull United into their shell.
Yeah, although, in the interest of balance, we should say that really the only one of those which was significant was the Fellaini sub, and it was 74 minutes into the game. I think you're absolutely right, and I completely agree about what happened to United. The last sub kind of almost doesn't count because it was, it was in the dying embers of the game sort of thing. It was very strange because we'd gone 1-0 down. They'd got back to 1-1 by that point. It seemed really weird that he brought Fosu Mensah on in that way. But yeah, so Martial was a like for like, and then it was the 74th minute by the time he brought Fellaini on. we should have still been all right. But as few people pointed out on Twitter, like, obviously we all know that bringing Fellaini on to close out a game isn't great. Specifically, in a game in which he will massively enliven the opposition crowd. Because apart from Old Trafford, there's not many places where Fellaini would get as hostile a reception as at Anderlecht.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, he surely will get a hostile reception on the training ground after that defensive performance, though. He was presumably brought into the game to help United defend. He didn't go and play up front, did he? And he completely left his marker, who then ran past him, out-jumped Marcos Rojo and scored the equalising goal, Dendoncker, who we talked about on last week's podcast. So, it was, I have to say, pretty disappointing from Fellaini, although not unsurprising.
No, and we'll come on to some Fellaini praise, obviously, later on in the show. All in all, in the first half, United were... Well, let's see. All in all, United were really coherent in the first half, really incoherent in the second. In the first half, it felt like same old. We missed a ton of chances. There was that Lingard one where he hit the post from a couple of yards out. Even the Mkhitaryan goal came from a rebound, didn't it? But they look completely overwhelmed. Yuri Tillemans, who George Knott talked about on the excellent interview you did with him last week, Ed, that was very informative. Tillemans, a lot of attention on him, obviously, around the world. He kind of very underwhelmed in the first half, but he got into it in the second half and put in a couple of pretty dangerous passes and
put in a couple of reducers as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he really started to make Anderlecht tick in the second half. You can see why people are quite excited about him, although he was playing Marouane Fellaini for the last 15 minutes, so we're discounting that portion of his good play. So half an hour of good play from him. Anderlecht were much more on the front foot, or just seemed to have more confidence that they could do something, and United started to retrench back into the 18-yard line area.
Pogba worthy of special mention from a United point of view in that game, just putting up good numbers all the way through the game. And we saw this again against Chelsea. I mean, he spoke before that game. He was the player sort of nominated for the press conference, and he spoke about the expectations on him and the fact that what he wants to be is a very good midfielder, and he's kind of put in two real good midfield displays in the last couple of games.
Right, he said people think I don't score enough. And maybe that's true, but I'm there to assist and help the team. So I thought he was quite clear about what he thinks his role in the team is. And of course, not having those YouTube moments, Vinable moments, has kind of hit the perception of him, I guess. But his numbers are great. I mean, creates more chances than any other player in the Premier League. Has passed more passes than any other player in the Premier League. Covers tons of ground, and he's got a decent number of assists. Not as many as I'm sure he would have expected, given his sort of Juventus numbers, and would have scored double figures in terms of goals if he didn't hit the post all the time.
And never mind, he would have expected more assists given his Juventus numbers. He would have expected more assists given the chances he's created for his teammates this season. That's it's not his fault they haven't finished them in a lot of cases.
And he said that in not quite so many words, but he was very polite about it. But yeah, clearly he wanted to make that point.
You wouldn't swap him for another midfielder in the Premier League, would you? I mean, I definitely wouldn't.
No. I think
wouldn't even consider it.
To get to that sort of next stratospheric level, he wants to score a few more goals, right? Double figures. I think a player of his talent and shooting ability, and the fact that he, is able to get ahead of the ball, doesn't perhaps as often as he could. You on that, and then the assist level, the numbers need to go up, but I'm not sure that's his fault. Look, he's had a very fine season for United. The people that are saying otherwise are jumping on a bandwagon. I see we had a hit piece in the Mirror this week on him. I think the journalist who has covered United for very many years doesn't appear to have seen many games. Because said he was.
Who was it? Do you know?
Yeah, I know. I'm not even going to mention his name. Yeah. And there've been a few like that. There've been a few like that, and some of them about Pogba have veered into very dangerous territory. Talking about his sort of physical attributes versus his effort levels. Yeah. And some are just flat out wrong because his numbers are fantastic and they just show that he's had a very, very effective season for United.
Henrik Mkhitaryan was real good, which was nice to see because he'd been a bit flat lately, and it was good to see him even before the goal. He looked really lively in that game against Anderlecht, which was nice. And Rashford also looked like he was kind of maintaining, because he'd scored, hadn't he, in the game before that, which I think was Sunderland. And then, he kind of seemed to take that confidence forward and obviously... Well, shall we just get onto it? Or have you got anything more to say about the Anderlecht game?
No, other than it was pretty disappointing, and it felt like it was a pattern of games that United have let slip this season. I mean, one thing I would say is, the conclusion, of course, is that it'll be a much more difficult tie at Old Trafford than could have been expected, I guess. I mean, in one of these two-legged ties, Anderlecht would have had to score either way, right? They've got to score at Old Trafford to go through because United have the away goal. They would have had to score if United had a lead, which they don't now. But it means that Mourinho is going to have to play as strong a side as possible, and that I guess factored into his starting 11 for Chelsea, although he denied it in the post-match press conference.
Well, I was going to say, no surprises in the starting 11 for the game against Anderlecht. An absolute hatful of surprises. And you looked at that starting 11 and we all did the same thing. Like, everyone did the same thing of kind of going, oh, well, he's just given up on the league, right? But no, it turns out, actually, it was just that he had a master plan, because the best United performance since the 4-2 against City in the Van Gaal purple patch?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean... The reason why everyone had that reaction is one, it said we're focusing on the Europa, and with the likely champions coming to town, that's not what United fans want to see. We don't want any of our managers actually or implicitly saying we're second best. And it felt like that. And the other is that I think we assumed we'd get a very defensive-minded performance out of United, and we'd effectively be playing a flat-back six. And actually what happened is that Mourinho defended by going on the attack. United played with a very high press, 3 at the back, but 3 at the back was kind of slightly, almost incidental. And 3 at the back actually helped United play 2 up front. So they played with a very, very high press, picked out David Luiz and Cahill, which had been the plan at Stamford Bridge in the Cup game, picked on them. Mourinho basically said afterwards, they're not as good as they think they are. They're not as good with the ball, he said. In terms of passing out of the back, they're not. And United picked on that. And in Ander Herrera, they had the player who was man of the match by a country mile, and who was absolutely outstanding, who did a job on as hard as he had planned to do at Stamford Bridge, but for what I still believe is a very harsh red card.
Well, it wasn't... Herrera did the job that was assigned to Phil Jones at Stamford Bridge, wasn't it? That's
true, yeah. Although Herrera fully took part in the man-marking duties.
in the kicking of Eden Hazard, which was a different story at Old Trafford. So I spent much of the first half looking at it going, what formation is that? We're playing a back three. Is Darmian playing at the left of centre-back? How come he's always on the right? Because we were playing 3 at the back without the ball, and a kind of weird asymmetric 4-4-2 with it, where we just didn't have... because Young was playing as a winger when we had the ball, because Darmian was going all the way across to be the right back. And then when we didn't have the ball, it was all about man marking, wasn't it? Darmian was a floating man who was able to just pick up Pedro the whole time. Either Rocco or Bailly picked up Costa, depending on where he stood. And Herrera took Hazard. I mean, Herrera stuck to Hazard like glue. Darmian almost as sticky with Pedro, not quite. Didn't kind of cross the field when Pedro crossed to the other flank. So didn't break United shape to that extent. But any time he was on the same half of the pitch, vertically speaking, as Darmian, he went with him. I mean, too many good performances I guess let's just go through the whole team, shall we?
Well, De Gea didn't really have to do anything. No shots on target from Chelsea. Only 3 shots in total, which will tell you something about how good United were defensively. And this is not United's side that had 20% possession, by the way. 47% possession.
Well, and that possession stat is even a bit misleading because we had 60% possession in the first half.
Right. Bailly, outstanding. I mean, just classy all over. Rojo did a brilliant job on Costa, mainly winding him up. And Costa is the pantomime baddie and played his role very well. Darmian didn't panic. He spent much of his time as the third central defender and looked very comfortable there and just drifted out to left back when he needed to. Valencia did fine job at wing back, as did Young. Both pushed forward, kept their men back. I mean, it was a real boon that Alonso couldn't, for United days, Alonso couldn't play because he is much better going forward than Azpilicueta. So, bonus for United. And in midfield, Pogba, outstanding. I don't think his numbers were perhaps as high as they have been. He made 75 passes or whatever, and some of them are a bit erratic. But I thought the ability for him to keep pushing forward kept Kante very busy. Kante in the end panicked for United's opening goal. Fellaini had a very, very good game in midfield. Mm-hmm. Don't say that very often, do we?
Hello, wait a minute. Was that the praise that you seemed to suggest might not be coming?
Not bad for him. That's the 1 in 10, right? And Herrera was absolutely outstanding, just superb. Everything. I mean, not just great defensively, which he was, but broke forward too. It's not as if he just sat there all the time. When United had the opportunity to go, he went.
Goal and an assist for Herrera. Yeah. It was Herrera that started the ball rolling. I mean, started the ball rolling down his hand along his wrist to his arm to kind of nudge it into position. His arm was in a natural position. That's fine. That's no problem.
Yeah. That's what he said. Yeah, I was running. My arm was in a natural position. I think that's, he's lucky because a lot of referees would have called that if they'd seen it. And I'm not sure that Bobby Madley did.
I think Madley saw it. I think he made a little, I've seen it, it's not handball move with his hand, a little referee jiggle to suggest he'd seen
referee jiggle. Yeah. And I tell you what, we hadn't got onto the forwards. I mean, Rashford was obviously outstanding, but Lingard played a massive role for 70 minutes or so, and in support of Rashford. And the fact that United could play 2 up there not only helped with the press, but just kept Chelsea's back 3 occupied all the time, especially Luiz. I mean, what was it, 3 minutes in, when Rashford burst past in the first time, couldn't finish. Yeah. And I think his number was up from that moment on.
The pass from Herrera after the handball is one of the passes of the season. And we had that, somebody asked us about it on Twitter, whether that counts as a counter-attack goal. And that's kind of what I was it's goals like that I was thinking of when I guessed at 10 counter-attacking goals last week.
Yeah, that's definitely not a counter-attack goal, but it's just a breakdown in possession.
Yeah, it's that sort of half counter, isn't it? It's the high press working, basically. And that the through balls, I mean, that's one of the majestic through balls of our time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You need to see that from behind to get the real feel of the weight and the bend that he's put on the ball. So from the normal camera position, it looks like a straight pass just into the channel. It was much better than that.
Herrera found Rashford, who obviously had Luiz on toast, like physically and technically all day long. Like he beat him for pace with that one, but there were numerous times when he used his touch because actually the ball in behind, he didn't necessarily get there always like behind Luiz in space. He got the ball and worked opportunities and openings. He took that goal brilliantly. And you slightly wonder if Thibaut Courtois might have saved that. But nonetheless, it was a fine finish and fantastic for Rashford. And you could see the confidence flowing through him. I mean, we'll come to the second half when he was playing up top on his own for far too long. But even then, he got the ball, beat 4 men and got a shot on target,
If you were being ultra critical
yeah.
Of the finish, you'd say he didn't hit it cleanly and he hit it into the ground, and that actually helped him beat Begovic, because it was not all on the ground. Might have caught Begovic's legs otherwise. But no, I mean, he's timed his run perfectly, millimetres onside, and cut across Luiz, which he had to do, and then got the shot into the corner. Perfect.
Yeah, and the... so you said rightly Herrera was man of the match by a mile. I said this on the Full-Time Devils thing after the game, but Rashford was kind of man of the first half. He was just electric all the way through that first half. But I completely agree with you about Lingard. The two of them link up excellently, and this game is such a good argument for we do not need to buy a young striker in this window. It's fine to buy Griezmann because, if that was Griezmann and Rashford up top, you can see that working beautifully as well. And Lingard would still get plenty of opportunity. But if you buy Lukaku, for example, a 24-year-old striker in his prime, then, Rashford's going to have 5 years of not being first choice centre forward. And, this was against Chelsea. They're the league leaders. They were the champions elect until a couple of weeks ago. And Rashford made them look completely ordinary.
Yeah, and he certainly did. And the only reason why United might be thinking about Lukaku is that he's a better finisher for now. Yeah, and Rashford's had a season and a bit in the team. That is it.
Yeah, and much less than that at centre forward. To go back to Pogba, who you mentioned, just a word for the incredible tackle on Costa. So I was watching that and I kind of, he travels miles to catch up with Costa. And then as he slides in, fully expecting the referee to blow for a foul, because I couldn't see from where I was, but watching it on telly, afterwards, that's a miracle tackle. That's a £89 million tackle right there. What an incredible, just precision move. Not too many players could do that, I wouldn't have said.
No, and it got the crowd going, didn't it? Look, we don't expect that from Pogba all the time. He doesn't have to go do that. But in the moment, it was great for him. A great piece of play, great recovery. And those are the things that will kind of take his game onto another level. I wouldn't want to see him doing that all the time, though, because if he's tracking back constantly, A, United are in trouble, and B, he's not in a position where he really causes trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to the game. It's the first game I've been to since Saint-Etienne, which was 2 months previously. As I pulled into the Lowry car park, on my Spotify playlist, Something Tells Me by Herman's Hermits came blasting on the playlist. As I pulled into the car park, I was like, oh, maybe, just maybe today's the day. And then when I was on my way home, I was listening to podcasts and I decided I'm feeling a bit tired now. I'm going to put some music on to wake me up. And the Spotify playlist came up with This Is The One. I was like, oh, Spotify, you have blessed us this day with Manchester United themed content. Very, very apt coincidences. You mentioned Marcus Rocco and Eric Bailly, both very good performances. The kind of performance which make you think that the theory that the two of them might be the best United centre-back pairing of the current crop is not wide of the mark at the moment.
No, I mean, on form this season, those are the United's two best central defenders, right, in terms of performances, and they look good together. Mourinho complained about them having to play too much, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think either of them has played too much this season, and certainly not together. And they've played a few games recently, but they're at centre back, and I think they retain freshness a little more than the forwards, so that's okay. They've done very well. I'm not sure it's a centre back pairing that would win United the European Cup, but I could be wrong about that. Rojo is so much more comfortable in there than he is at left back. You do wonder about his temperament sometimes, and wonder whether he's a red card waiting to happen. He's certainly got lesser than he may have deserved, given some of his tackling, but he was perfect in this game. Not a foot wrong, really.
The United crowd. There was something I wanted to say. This is a bit just personal, but I was sat in the northeast quadrant, and to my left there was an older couple, sort of probably late 50s to mid 60s, somewhere in that age. Local, classic kind of, that kind of old school fan who just chat to you and treat you like family because you're Reds. I'm sure you've come across many of those in your time. And then on my right was a family from somewhere in the Far East. And they were like, it was a mum and dad and a little one who was occasionally like covering her ears, but was grinning for most of the game. And in front of me was a Swedish family where the dad and the son had Ibrahimovic shirts. And I was just thinking, this is like perfect. And all of them were super into it, absolutely loving it. And it was just like, it was a kind of perfect summation of the different types of people you get at Old Trafford. And there's a kind of, there can be a really nice blend to that. And also just the atmosphere was incredible. Like, I was sitting right above the singing section. I hardly heard the away fans once. Not that they weren't making noise, but normally at Old Trafford, of course, you hear them a lot because the home fans aren't drowning them out. East Stand just burst into song apropos of nothing at least once in that game, which that just never happens anymore. So that was nice. And there was a real appreciation for Mourinho. There was a real sense of, oh yeah, Mourinho's done the job here. This was a Mourinho masterclass, and his name was ringing out from all four corners of the ground. Obviously, that was partly a kind of support of him because it's his old club and everything. And he went off tapping the badge on his chest. Yeah, I'm one of yous now. I don't care about Chelsea, honest. But yeah. It was good. It was a good Old Trafford day.
Yeah, and talking to Mourinho, his finest performance as United manager. I mean, it's the kind of one that's perfectly set up for him. This is the thing we know of Mourinho, that kind of one-off tactical masterclass, I think a few papers have called it. But understanding what to do in the moment in those big games, he's pulled off time and time again in his career. Perfect for Mourinho. Found the response, found the way to break Chelsea in perfect style, and his players executed it thoroughly. And he should be very happy with it. And his finest day as United manager, I guess, apart from the cup final win and all that.
Yeah, he looked a lot happier about this than he did about the cup final win.
It's not his biggest challenge, though, as United manager. I don't think you can walk away from a single victory over albeit the best team in the land, and say, yeah, job done, because he can't pull off that kind of bespoke, tactical approach in every game, right? And he hasn't. When United have to force the issue, they haven't been able to do so. And that's the thing that will probably keep United out of the Champions League. I say probably because we've got away games at Arsenal, Tottenham and Manchester City to come. And given that United's record against the top six this season is not good, and in fact hasn't been good since Fergie left, it's, history, recent and otherwise, tells us that it's unlikely to happen, and that's the real failing. This was magnificent. Fantastic performance from United, fantastic from Mourinho. He's got to do more. And he's got to be fantastic almost every week, and it hasn't been.
I mean, the one counter argument to that, because there's obviously true what you've said, but the one kind of caveat I'd add is that to win the league, you don't need bespoke performances against everyone. You need bespoke performances in the big games, and then you need a system which generates you lots of chances in the other games. And we've had that for a lot of the season. At least I had a chat with Alex Porter from Manchester Evening News, which you'll hear in a minute. And she was saying it took him like a third of the season to find his best team, but once he did, United went through a long phase of creating tons of chances and not taking them. There's an awful lot of results this season, not all of them, but an awful lot of results this season which are not Mourinho's fault, and that the system should have worked and didn't.
So on that thread, one thing we haven't talked about: no Ibrahimovic, and United looked way more coherent in attack. Now, are the two things connected, or was that by chance?
Well, they're obviously connected, but the flip side, you could say, well, I mean, Ibrahimovic hasn't played in a front two all season, has he? Hardly at all, maybe once. So, he's been leading the line in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 all season. And secondly, the whole team really turned up in this game in a way they sometimes don't. And this is the reason that I kind of have not been able to get too giddy about what this game means for United's future, because against Anderlecht, the biggest problem looked like complacency. Whenever United think they're better than the opposition, because they often are, they kind of go through the motions. And in this game, they were clearly not going through the motions from start to finish. And obviously the system was set up to thrive with two really mobile forwards. And that was great to watch, and it seemed like fitting and effective, and obviously would have been very different if Ibrahimovic had been there. But I don't think that necessarily... I mean, like we said last week, this is probably the first game of all the games where United have played well this season. This is the first one Ibrahimovic wasn't part of.
Yeah, and in fact, United couldn't have played that way with Ibrahimovic in the team, which kind of leads credence to what Mourinho said afterwards, where he said, maybe I didn't rest players, maybe I just picked the best team for this game.
That's what it looked like.
I mean, it didn't look like that at minute 0. It definitely looked like that at minute 90 or 94. Let's take him at face value on that one. He's, for the first time this season, dropped Ibrahimovic for tactical reasons. And United look very good. It doesn't mean that we could play that way in every game. Certainly not, right? So I wonder whether United actually had more possession than Mourinho expected. It wasn't, the idea wasn't to hit Chelsea on the break as often as possible and then break them down in their defensive third when we could with a high press, and just happened to have more ball than perhaps Mourinho was really planning for. But can't do that every week. Can't do that against Burnley at home. So he's going to have to find a system in which not only do you create those 37 chances, but a way of scoring them regularly. Burnley has been repeated 9 times at Old Trafford. He's got to fix that. And the system he played against Chelsea won't fix that. But it kind of points to a future beyond Ibrahimovic if he leaves this summer, which he might. It seems like he's saying, "Okay, Champions League or I'm going." Then there's some talent there.
Yeah. Talking of Ibrahimovic maybe leaving this summer, this is one of the things I talked to Alex Porter from Manchester Evening News about. Let's hear from Alex. I am absolutely delighted to be joined by Alex Porter of the Manchester Evening News. Alex is a football writer covering the Manchester beat. How have you found covering Man United this season?
It's been excellent, but mixed, I suppose. As a professional, you always want to be covering teams winning trophies, which they have done, but you also want to be covering them involved in a title fight when it's a team like United or indeed City. And from a United perspective, we've not had that, but it's certainly full of intrigue at the moment in terms of José Mourinho's first season, and it's fair to say that even though the title race is in London, thanks to United yesterday, Manchester's still where there's an awful lot of attention this season, thanks to Mourinho and Guardiola. So it's good to be right at the heart of it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So what have you made of? I mean, I guess it's fair to say from a football perspective, Guardiola versus Mourinho in Manchester has not lived up to its billing so far. What have you made of Mourinho in particular this season?
Yeah, it's been interesting, hasn't it? Because he's, from my point of view, I think he's restored a bit of the United mentality to Old Trafford, which needed to happen after the last 3 years. He's restored a bit of siege mentality, a bit of winning mentality, a bit of expectation. Then on the other hand, it's from my point of view, he's not really met those expectations because he came in riding on this white horse, had a brilliant transfer window. I think last August it was very difficult to fault him. The transfers that he made were excellent, and suddenly it was a return to the previous days where needs were being actually addressed, which was exciting. It's then been a little bit disappointing to see United. Well, they're not in sixth at the moment, which is great, but they are still fighting for top four rather than fighting for the top couple of positions, which I'm sure Mourinho is not his idea of fun either, to be honest. So, but then there's the Europa League. So he said at Chelsea he wasn't too keen on the Europa League, but he's restoring a bit of prestige to the competition with the Champions League qualification. So that's all to look forward to as well the next couple of weeks.
So why do you think it hasn't? I mean, you say he's kind of brought back a bit of a winning mentality, and I agree, although there's a strong argument to say that what he's really brought back is a drawing mentality, unfortunately. But what do you put down the kind of relative lack of success? What do you think have been the big issues?
I think it's, unfortunately, the fact that he took a while to work out what his best team was. And I think Marcus Rashford and Jesse Lingard yesterday blew that wide open again. So they lost a bit of time at the start of the season to that, which is funny to say when you consider that the first 3 games were actually good wins. But still playing Wayne Rooney at that time and then sort of phased Rooney out. But that took some time to happen. Trying to get the best out of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but also trying to get the best out of Rashford and Martial and Lingard and Mkhitaryan behind him took some time. And now we're at a stage in April where perhaps he's only just beginning to work out what that team is. And if you look at the case of Ashley Young, for example, he didn't get a game really before Christmas. And then since the end of January, has been a crucial player and actually wore the captain's armband against Chelsea. It's fair to say, I think, that he's still got some tinkering to do before he works out what his strongest team is and what the best way to get the best out of those players is. And
sort of covering him on that kind of daily beat, do you think... this is a slightly devil's advocate question here, really, because I'm not like setting this up like I don't think this. I'm just interested in what it looks like from close up. Do you think the kind of fire's still there? Do you think the football intellect that kind of shook the world is still there in the way it was?
Yeah, I think it is. I think his attitude has looked a bit different at United than it has at Chelsea, but that's because he's not in a winning position like he was there. He's having to adjust the way he responds to people because the questions aren't all about, oh, you're at the top of the league. It's a question about, are you in sixth? And that's got to be hard for him to deal with because he is a winner, let's be honest. And that's the reason why he was employed. But I certainly think the fire is still there. And I think you saw against Chelsea little hints of that coming back. He looked the most animated on the touchline he's looked in weeks. And I think it sort of mirrored the fans a bit, actually. If you speak to fans outside Old Trafford the past couple of weeks, there's been kind of not a disinterest, I would say, but there's a kind of a flatter attitude coming in the fact that, people came in expecting the fact it wouldn't be a great game. And I think that's been mirrored in the manager and they've kind of fed each other. But I certainly think the fire is still there. And I think next season, when he's had another year, another summer, another transfer window, I think he'll be starting to snipe at reporters and bite people's heads off again.
What have you and your colleagues made of him as compared to kind of the managers that have been around in the last few years in terms of his relationship with the local press?
The relationship with the local press, I suppose, is no different to his relationship with the national press at the moment. I wouldn't say that the locals get treated any better or worse. They get pretty much the same access and the same treatment, really. But the way he's been in press conferences, I feel has changed a bit. Like he's been... he was on good form a few times. He's had a couple of press conferences which have been a bit more downbeat recently, as there have been a few more draws. But you always get good copy out of Mourinho. I think you'll notice a difference if Guardiola and Mourinho have a press conference at the same time. You'll notice if for anyone who covers both beats, and a paper would only send one, and they would normally cover both press conferences, there has been a bit of a tendency to favour United at times, simply because you'll get better copy out of Mourinho, whereas Guardiola keeps his cards a bit closer to his chest, perhaps, which is perhaps his way of working, and arguably better for the way he wants to work, but from a press point of view, it can be a bit frustrating.
Yeah, I bet. What's he been like to cover?
He's been very interesting, and I think he's been quite different to what people expected coming in as well. I think people expected him to, sort of like Mourinho, he's had very successful experiences at Barcelona and Bayern Munich and has been heralded as the Messiah. I think certainly City fans expected a little bit of that, him to come in and fix what's ailing them, because Pellegrini was a bit like a sitting duck for the last 18 months. And they've also had teething problems, and they've certainly got a big summer ahead of them to fix what is an ageing defence.
So you mentioned summer, which brings us to the vexed question that I would imagine occupies an awful lot of a football reporter's interaction with the general public at the moment, because people have become rabidly obsessed with transfer rumours and the transfer market. What's it like to cover that stuff from the inside?
It's really quite interesting, actually, because a lot of fans will tell you that I'm not interested in transfer gossip, particularly outside the summer transfer window in January. People say, no, I'm not interested in that. I'd rather read about the analysis. But consistently across both clubs, so it's not just a United thing, you'll see that what does best is transfer stuff, whether that's a story we've sourced ourselves or whether it's gossip from somewhere else. They are always the stories that do best. So you're not quite sure sometimes what to give the public.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that I'm sure there's still sort of slightly more maybe old school football supporters who will claim not to be interested in transfer rumours, but I don't think people, definitely kind of the internet football community is not exactly shy about its obsession with transfer discussion, is it? What are the big transfer stories that are going to happen this summer, do you reckon?
Oh, put me on the spot a little bit there. Well, it's the same names, isn't it? We're already starting to see the same names crop up over and over again. So from a United perspective, you've got the futures of Zlatan Ibrahimovic and potentially David De Gea to sort out. And that will inform the way they go with the rest of them, I think. Antoine Griezmann is going to be the big one that occupies us this summer, in the same way that Paul Pogba was last summer. But certainly if Zlatan goes, you're looking at Griezmann plus another striker to come in as well. So certainly plenty of names that are going to be circulating with regards to that. And I think every Portuguese player has been linked with Mourinho since he's taken over at Old Trafford, so expect more of that as well. So
this is not like a journalistic question. This isn't like, what do your sources tell you or anything. This is a question about sort of instinct, a kind of reading of the tea leaves question. The Griezmann thing, if you had to, would you bet on it happening or not happening at this point?
With a slight caveat, if United qualify for the Champions League, yes, I would bet on it. If they don't qualify for the Champions League, probably not.
Okay. That is a good caveat. So what's the kind of, I know we have lots of people that listen to this show that are interested, as like a lot of young football writers and stuff. What's the kind of working day like for a football writer on the Manchester Evening News?
Well, we have various shifts. It can be in any time between 7 a.m. or you can start at 2 in the afternoon. But get in and just have a little scout round, see what people are talking about, because, well, as well as bringing our news stories to the table, you want to kind of feed into what the fans are talking about, what the key talking points are. So after a game like Chelsea, for example, you come in and see, you probably have a couple of pieces in mind that you want to write, whether they're opinions or whether you spoke to someone after the game that they've got some quotes, ideally Ander Herrera, I suppose, and go from there. But certainly, if it's not after a game, you've probably got a couple of ideas you want to formulate, speak to some people, and go from there. But it's a lot about talking to people, whether that's your sources, that's your contacts, or whether it's even fans as well, just to see what they're thinking about. And because at the end of the day, what people are talking about is what people want to read about and write about as well. Yeah, absolutely. And so what's kind of... has there been anything that the fans have kind of gravitated towards this season that surprised you? I suppose we see Zlatan Ibrahimovic is not as popular as I probably expected. Certainly that surprised me, certainly in the last couple of months, potentially since about February, I think. Certainly there seems to be a lot more indifference to him than considering that he is United's top scorer. He scored 17 in the league, I think it is. And then you saw the reaction to the team sheet against Chelsea when he was left on the bench. There was almost mass hysteria on the internet, although it's difficult to judge everybody's reactions by the internet. There was a lot of surprise there. And yet, if you talk to some people about him, or if you write about him, there doesn't seem to be quite that love for him that you might expect for a top scorer.
What do you put that down to?
But potentially, I think the fact that he hasn't decided what he wants to do after the summer. People are maybe a bit reluctant of getting their fingers burnt with Zlatan. But he comes in and he says these brilliant things, doesn't he? But perhaps he's a fantastic character, a real maverick, and he's certainly been an excellent free signing. But potentially he's not as sort of united as someone else might be. Like when Robin van Persie came in and made a similar sort of impact. Obviously he won United the Premier League, but he also seemed to get United potentially a bit more than Zlatan does. So maybe it's partly down to that.
Yeah, because it's almost like Zlatan's the big story in Zlatan's world, isn't he? Rather than the club that he plays for. But I think it's got to do with on the pitch stuff as well. I think it's he's obviously scored a lot of goals, but people have had some serious doubts. I mean, he's missed an absolute hatful of chances, right?
He has. He's missed the clear-cut chances as well, hasn't he? Because you can look at United and say, well, they can't finish their dinner, which is true. But there's also a lot of half chances that are going begging. But he's sort of missed chances that you really would hope a goal scorer of his calibre would put away. But he does score those goals. But perhaps he also doesn't bring as much to the all-round game as someone like Marcus Rashford does, who can, Marcus is 19 and will run all day and set up goals and even his running off the ball kind of frees up other people. So perhaps that's also an area of his game that Zlatan at the age of 35 can't really be expected to bring to the party.
So from a United perspective then, how would you hope that the rest of the season goes?
I think from a professional point of view and a United perspective, I think you've got to hope they go on and win the Europa League now, regardless of whether they get into the top four or not, because United is a club that's built on winning trophies. And so if Mourinho at the end of his first season can have won the League Cup and the Europa League, then you can say, all right, that's an extra 2 trophies added to the cabinet. It's given some players who might not have that much experience of winning trophies. Not many of them have won a trophy in Europe from the current squad. But I think there's going to come a point potentially where José Mourinho has to choose his priorities, whether it's Europa League or Premier League. But I think the win over Chelsea means he's got to delay the decision a bit more, because even if they win the Europa League, you don't want to be finishing ideally 5th or 6th and looking at teams who you think the United should be better than and having them finish higher than United. So while it's still a chance of top 4, I think he's got to keep going for that as well, because if he could finish in the top 4 and win the Europa League, then the critics would be put to bed for a little bit, certainly.
Brilliant. Well, Alex, thank you very much for joining us. Where can the people find your stuff on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at Alex Porter MEN, or you can find me on Facebook if you do that sort of thing as well, Alex Porter Journalist. But and the manchesterunitynews.co.uk is an excellent point of reference as well.
Brilliant. Cheers, Alex.
All right, cheers, Paul.
So massive thanks to Alex for joining us. A very interesting conversation, and the point that she made about Ibrahimovic was that maybe one of the reasons that he's not quite as beloved as, say, like a Robin van Persie was in his first season, although obviously we won the league that season, is because we don't know whether he's staying or going. Do you think that affects the way he's perceived?
Well, look, it would play into a career that appears to be one of sort of ephemerality, right? He's never really stayed at a club that often. I mean, he was 3 years in Paris. Is that the longest spell he's ever spent with a club?
It's got to be up there, hasn't it?
It's got to be up there, yeah. He moves a lot, and the mere fact that he hasn't signed when the deal's on the table, like, it's not for the money. I don't think he's obviously an extremely wealthy man after all these years earning megabucks, and he could earn megabucks over in China apparently. It's for something else, you know. I'm not sure if I fully buy the Champions League argument, unless there is a deal on the table from another guaranteed Champions League club. If it's LA Galaxy, that's something different. That's I'm not sure I can keep doing this. I'm going to enjoy the sun and a different I don't know, climate and football environment and all of that in my last year of football.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or two.
To go back to the Chelsea game for a second, you were saying during the Anderlecht game that there's been this pattern that Mourinho makes a defensive substitution and then United just let the opposition come onto them. And he did it again against Chelsea. He took Lingard off for Carrick and then was basically playing Rashford really, really isolated on his own up front. And I just wanted to point out one moment, which was further grist to the mill of why Ander Herrera is brilliant and should be United captain. After about 10 minutes of fairly constant Chelsea pressure, he cleared the ball long right down the other side of the pitch. And then he started going absolutely mad at everyone, holding his arms out and pushing forward to say, kind of, come on, everyone, push up as a collective. Let's all push up. We've got a territorial advantage here. We can press them high up the pitch. And that was the end of United sitting back. It just stopped happening right then and there.
Yeah, well, Young had the armband. Ander Herrera was the captain on the pitch. Much like when Rooney had the armband and Bastian was doing his very talented pointing for a little while.
2 goals in 3 for the Chicago Fire.
Yeah, perhaps you should sign him. Yeah. He's still looking a bit chunky, though. I'd be worried about him in Chicago. Deep dish pizza and all that. Look, Ander Herrera is a leader in every sense. Fantastic leadership on the pitch in terms of his performances and his ability to understand the game and his in-game management and his ability to get more out of his teammates, He would not make a bad captain of United, given that he's on rotation to everyone at the moment.
Yeah.
One other thing, he after he got the booking, Mourinho did the very sensible thing and basically passed off the man marking to Michael Carrick, who didn't have to do a lot. I mean, very different style of play. He just reads the game, but made one brilliant defensive header when the ball went long from a Chelsea break. And if he hadn't made that, Hazard could well have been through and did his job perfectly in that moment for the last 10-15 minutes.
There was one it came on with half an hour to go, right? It came on at 60 minutes, I think Carrick did.
But he only picked up the came on at 60, but only picked up the man marking job on 75 or so. Right. Herrera got booked.
Yeah. The other brilliant Carrick moment was the through ball for Rashford to the one that went into the side netting. It was like, really, for a split second, I thought we'd seen another absolutely brilliant goal, and I'd have been really happy for us to go to 3-0 up because, from the moment Carrick came on, basically from 60 minutes onwards, I was genuinely nervous because you really felt like United had given so much in this game, and their kind of collective mentality is still relatively fragile. You would not like to have seen what would have happened if Chelsea had got one back, would you?
Yeah, it didn't happen though, so let's not worry about that too much. Some of us would like to get to sleep tonight because we have work tomorrow.
It was wonderful and like such a buzzy feeling around the ground afterwards, and lots of happy fans on the internet. Obviously, just a really nice moment in a not that brilliant season. The game that it brings to mind, of course, is the game in the 13-14 season when Mourinho's first back at Chelsea and destroyed Liverpool as they were trying to win the league, just out of spite.
Well, it's always the best thing to do when beating Liverpool. A bit of spite.
Yeah. So you wonder whether, and that of course became a platform for Chelsea. So you wonder whether this becomes a platform for the rest of the season, for next season.
Talking of Liverpool, and I hate to bring this up, but I feel like we should talk about it. Kelvin McKenzie. Just so how subhuman is this scum of a man?
Yeah, he's one of the I mean, he's just a terrible, terrible human being, isn't he? I mean, the thing about that column is it's a completely obnoxious column. It's probably not in the top 5 worst things Calvin McKenzie's ever done.
No, that's right. On the Rankcast WhatsApp group, I said he probably should have been sacked a dozen times before now for stuff he's done. Yeah, I'm deeply, deeply offensive man. Funny thing is the Sun editorial team, who presumably signed off on this column, don't appear to have been sacked either. Shame.
No, and they denied, because, the thing about his Nigerian heritage, they denied knowledge of that, but the Sun have, of course, referenced that before, so that their argument doesn't stand up. Everton have banned the Sun, and, you get these journalists going, oh, well, the poor sports columnist shouldn't have to suffer because of this, and you just think, well, the poor sports columnist is covering football in Liverpool for the Sun. It's not. I don't really have a great deal of sympathy for that as an argument. Really, I think they're not only do I think they're right to ban the Sun. I think more institutions should say we don't want to live in a world where this kind of newspaper is given free access to us, is treated as equal to journals of record, because they don't deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, the danger of that, of course, is, you politicise it to the point where you're saying what is acceptable speech and what isn't. And there's a question mark about whether that should be okay at all, right? We don't have free speech. So a lot of people seem to think that we have a Second Amendment First Amendment, in the United Kingdom. We don't. There are race hate laws and there are very strict libel laws. So free speech doesn't exist, folks. But there's a ethical question there. Should he be allowed to say whatever he wants, and should football clubs police it? But generally, I'm in agreement with you. I think Everton are right to say, I don't want to be associated with this guy and the organisation that supports him.
And the free speech argument is fine. Like even okay, you're right. There isn't codified free speech, but there's a broad spectrum of acceptable speech in this country. And the thing that I never understand about when the right wing particular cry free speech is they're almost never talking about free speech. They're almost always talking about the reaction to free speech. It's like, yeah, you can say what you like or write what you like within the parameters of the law, but then you're going to get the reaction you get, and that's part of the process. So say an objectionable thing. You're allowed to say an objectionable thing. People are allowed to go, that's an objectionable thing.
Talking of other offensive men, John Terry has left Chelsea.
Well, he's leaving at the end of the season, right? They're doing a farewell tour for their captain, leader, legend.
Wouldn't it be funny if he slipped and missed a penalty on the last day of the season for Spurs to win the league title or something?
There was some real good John Terry chants. Because Chelsea was singing, we're top the league, which was fair enough. Like, of course they'd be singing that song, but that's the wrong tune. That triggered off the whole ground into Viva John Terry chants. That was good. I mean, the Man United legend, right, is retiring. We should mark this occasion.
Yes. His best moment ever in Moscow in the rain. As the tears fell. I won't miss him. Turns out Chelsea supporting journalist got a lot of retweets on a comment saying he's the finest one club man ever. Forgetting both that he's not a one club man and Neville Scholes and Giggs and I guess Maldini would have something to say about that too.
Yeah, he says the most remarkable British League one club career.
Yeah, read the thread. It's good because someone challenges him, said, no, he had a loan at Nottingham Forest actually. And the guy replies, one club in the English League. I was like, what?
I mean, to be fair, the kind of loan as a kid, I don't think stops you being a one-club man. Where if Jesse Lingard retires at 35 at United, we're not going, oh, well, he had spells at Brighton on loan, So I think that doesn't really disqualify him. But the idea that John Terry was brilliant. Like, make no mistake, John Terry was an absolutely brilliant defender and has had one of football's most remarkable careers. But, Ryan Giggs won 13 league titles. 13! 1-3. 13!
I know. Like Ryan Giggs, John Terry likes to play away from home occasionally. So the rumours go. Unlike Ryan Giggs, John Terry likes to racially abuse fellow pros.
That's not a nice man by all accounts.
Let's move on, shall we? Anderlecht on Thursday.
Should we do some Twitter questions before we give a cursory preview of the games coming up?
Oh, well, now we're experts on Anderlecht. Yeah, go for it.
It was really good. We should more regularly talk to people who know about the clubs United are playing against. I really enjoy it.
Fully agree. Yeah. We should do that.
That's not a promise, by the way. That's not binding. You might well get more. I don't know. They're from Ukraine next season. Well, hopefully we'll be in the Champions League and we'll at least have heard of the clubs United are playing against. Okay, this is an interesting question from @CrypticAndroid. With the exception of Rashford and Herrera, did United really collectively play all that well, or were Chelsea just exceptionally bad? I do think it is worth saying that even though I think part of this was about Mourinho's tactics negating them, they were collectively quite terrible, like lots of really sloppy misplaced passes and stuff.
There were, but I mean, I would say that the thing that made them bad was the fact that they were unable to react to what clearly surprised them. They were not expecting that from United. They were not expecting that sort of system or maybe the system they might have done or approach from United, and they were unable to react and change. And they didn't change, and that was the remarkable thing, really. Big question mark against Conte for me. He had four championships in a row with Juventus, but no real challenger to Juve in Italy. Chelsea have walked to this title, but he did have a very good squad to start with. Big question mark whether he can react. And, I'm not saying he's suddenly a failure, clearly not. But this was this kind of raises a flag that says, someone outthought him for once, and he didn't change it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, his public comments have been slightly strange. We're going to do backers stuff about the rest of the Premier League at the end of the show, but he was talking about Tottenham being the best side in the league at the moment and things like that, which is obviously kind of true, but you think, I don't know, is that what's needed? I don't know. Obviously he knows, he's forgotten more about managing a football team than I'll ever know. Loads and loads and loads of questions about whether Ander Herrera should be United's next captain, which I think obviously we've talked about before and is getting increasingly evident. And actually, this kind of relates to what @CrypticAndroid asked about about how well United played. He mentioned Rashford and Herrera, but he didn't mention Marcus Rocco. And @PhilAnwill says, is anyone else becoming a massive fan of Marcus Rocco? He improves every week. Yeah.
Well, look, I like him when he puts in performances like that. I don't like him when he dives in with 2 feet or scissor kicks someone, or when he plays at left back.
All right, this is one for you, Ed. This is your cruel, mean agenda that I've got nothing to do with. @Svillen says, who would you prefer in the starting 11 out of Rooney and Fellaini?
Rooney?
Oh yeah, well, Wayne Rooney is clearly going in the summer, isn't he?
Yeah, as part of a swap deal for Lukaku. These swap deals never, ever happen, except in, Football Manager or, something like that.
Well, the Navas De Gea swap deal broke the transfer computers, didn't it? That's how unlikely they are. In fact, @Stocky6 says, transfer swaps don't really happen, but is there any chance United grab Kroos or Varane if De Gea joins Madrid this summer?
I don't think we should. It's too early. We can't start transfer talk yet.
All right, good. I'm glad.
Although, Herrera is likely to be joining Real Madrid, isn't he? Given that they're desperate for Hazard.
Yeah, and they'll be following him. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
That's good. That was a good football joke. I totally got it and everything. @Maz_man_UTD says, till this day, I still sing Mourinho, Are You Listening? It just fits. It's just confusing me now. What do I do? You're like, Mourinho, are you listening? Why'd you keep dropping Martial? You just have to change the lyrics up. At Gary_1105 says, I know we're supposed to be all cool and blasé about this, but isn't it really great sometimes having Jose Mourinho as our manager? It's been a mixed experience, but Sunday was definitely one of those days where it's like, it was full Jose, wasn't it? Jose went full Jose in a good way.
He went full Jose in a good way. It was very good, very enjoyable. Not enough of that so far.
And at Mark_E_F, Mark Ferguson, friend of the Rantcast, says his former players say he tends to coach defenders and midfielders, but lets forwards play instinctively. Is this an issue? Talking of the things that haven't been good enough so far.
If he gives them the freedom within the system to do that, no, it's not. I mean, look at the amount of goals that Chelsea, especially during his first spell, and Real Madrid scored. Lots and lots of goals.
Yeah. Well, talking of which, at Ritesh_R_Singh, also a friend of the Rantcast, says, do you think Mourinho's team require a magic player like Robin, Ronaldo or Hazard to work? I mean, I guess he should say Robin, Ronaldo, Hazard or Rashford to work.
Well, look, a magic player, yes. There's potentially Martial, Rashford and Mkhitaryan who could do that, right? And Pogba in a slightly different way, magic as in will beat 2 or 3 players. There's potentially some. They haven't done it often enough. Even Mkhitaryan, he's been a bit colder over the last 2 months or so, hasn't he? So it will play out in the summer because Jose will be thinking, are these players good enough to take United to that next level?
At Atishay_J says, how shocked are you by the fact that Jose has given teenagers more minutes on the pitch than any other manager in the top 6? I mean, the thing about this stat, which has been doing the rounds a lot, is it's a brilliant example of statistics being used completely without context. Because first of all, he's not giving teenagers minutes, he's giving Marcus Rashford minutes. Like, none of the other teenagers have hardly featured at all. Fosu Mensah's had the odd run out or whatever. And in terms of bringing through young players at United, that's the issue. It's about the management of young players. And if you look at Tottenham, their young players that are coming through aren't teenagers anymore. But Dele Alli's 20, I think. So it's kind of a technicality, really. And so I think it's basically a meaningless statistic.
No, I think that's right. Better one would be how many minutes were given to under 23s or something like that, So how much trust is there in younger players generally? I don't know the numbers, but I'm going to guess it's not hugely high from Mourinho. But the wider point you're making, can he bring through unproven players? Will he, or is he able to trust unproven players who may not be the finished article? And you think, no, he's not able to trust, generally speaking, those unfinished players. If he had a choice and a preference, he would pick the completed player over the incomplete one every time.
Yeah.
Would he not?
Absolutely he would. Even in his post-match press conference, Rashford, one of Rashford's best games for United ever, still had time to mention that Rashford missed a chance early on. So that's a kind of example of that tendency. At Nathan J. Wilco should be thoroughly ashamed of himself. As he says, if glass blowers inhale, do they get a pain in the stomach? Spelled P-A-N-E. Honestly, P-A-N-E. Honestly, it's just not acceptable. I shouldn't have given it airtime. At Calais 99 says, do you want Leeds to get promotion to the Premier League?
They could do it. I mean, they're in a sort of 5 or 6 way fight, aren't they, in the Championship? Brighton promoted as we speak. Newcastle, I presume, will go up too. And, there's a bunch of other clubs chasing. Leeds are one of them. I would enjoy it for 2 games. Although, you can enjoy 46 games of Leeds suffering in the Championship. The Championship. I forget what it's called. Instead, so, 2 games of us hopefully beating them versus 46 games of them being down there.
6 points, though, isn't it? That'd be good.
True.
Although...
That's hubris for you.
Yeah, losing to Leeds is bad. At Bridgman Bear says, are we going to win the league now? It's a shame. Isn't it a shame? Isn't it a shame that we're not? And yeah, so we've got so many more questions.
Mathematically still possible for another couple of games.
Oh, actually, just one more. At Tom_McGee says, how good was Marcus Rashford yesterday? Squirrel emoji equals 0. Electric guitar emoji equals 10, assuming you're familiar with this system. I'm going electric guitar emoji. Like, I'm definitely prepared to go that far.
Well, since we're on guitars, I think Rashford went all the way up to 11.
Nice. Good work. Oh, I greatly enjoyed that, Ed. Much like the game against Chelsea. So will we be enjoying the football when Man United play Anderlecht at Old Trafford on Thursday night?
Surely.
What system's he going to play? What lineup's he going to play? What's going to happen?
Well, I mean, Ibra will be back in the team because United will be pressing, right? Anderlecht will not be taking the game to United, even though they have to win. They're going to come and try and play on the break. United will have a lot of possession. Ibra will come back into the team. Rashford will be back out on the wing, I assume. I'm going to guess Mkhitaryan comes back into the side, maybe, since he didn't play against Chelsea. And we'll probably see something that looks more like a 4-2-3-1 in terms of a system.
And if
should be good enough.
Yeah, if they can play like they did in the first half against Anderlecht, that will make a big difference. All the Anderlecht fans were going crazy for Lukas Teodorczyk, who's their top scorer, and they were desperate for him to come on. He ended up coming on really late in that game. I wonder if he'll start in this game.
Yeah, I wonder. Big unit, isn't he? So probably, yeah. Gives them an outball. But look, the thing that will change it is the last half hour of this game. So imagine it's still 0-0 on 60 minutes. Anderlecht have got to come out, at some point, and then the opportunities come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess Romero will be back in goal because he definitely seems to be the Europa League keeper. I guess kind of a big statement in a way. I feel like I'd much rather see De Gea in goal in this game. That seems kind of harsh on Romero personally, but seems like a weird time to be sentimental about this. De Gea's a much better keeper. We need to win this trophy.
Yeah. What is the benefit? Unless it's some kind of pact with, and this argument has been made, some kind of pact with Romero to keep him as the number 2, because he's not going to be number 1 if De Gea goes. I would hope not, anyway.
Unless something's gone really wrong.
Right. So, what's the benefit? Don't get it. If he look, he's been pretty flawless this season, but if he makes a Swansea-style ricket and it knocks United out, and it's the thing, assuming United don't make it into the Champions League via the league, it's the thing that knocks United out of the Europa League. That's £100 million mistake.
I mean,
you play your best team, don't you?
Yeah, that's the thing, because it's not like De Gea hasn't got a massive rick in him. I mean, he did it just the other week against whoever it was was it Everton? Because it was Jagielka.
Yeah, but you give yourself the best chance possible.
But this is the thing. It isn't even the kind of percentage chance of a massive rick happening. It's, if someone's putting a free kick into the top corner, De Gea's got a chance of making saves that almost no one in the world can make. So it's almost like it's his exceptional quality. Missing out on his exceptional quality seems a heavy gamble at this point, but he's done it all the way through this competition. I mean, I guess you could say there's kind of a difference between a first leg and a second leg, because if we'd won that game 3-0, which we sort of should have done, if we kind of tucked away our chances in the first half, then Romero has a quiet evening. You can play him again at Old Trafford. But with the game poised like this, I wonder what he'll do. It's going to be really interesting to see.
It's odd to be sentimental about the goalkeeping position, right? If that's what it is, he's going to play him because, he's been playing him. When that's not been the case for any other position, really.
Apart from centre forward. until that game.
He's not sentimentally playing Tim Fosu-Mensah because, the lad needs a few minutes.
Well, he is, but literally for 2 minutes at the end of games.
Yeah. Anyway, I think United will win this one, but I think it will come late. So it's, a few nail biters, and then it'll open up and United will win sort of 2-0 or something like that.
All right, I'm gonna go 3-0 because they'll crumble when Rashford scores a first minute blinding goal.
All right. And then there's Burnley afterwards.
Yeah, so Burnley, what a season they're having. I mean, they're 14th, which is not a good league position, but hardly anyone is talking about them being in any way involved in the title race. They're 8 points clear.
Relegation.
Obviously, did I say title?
You did. Yeah, if they were 8 points clear in the title race, that would be one hell of a season.
Yeah, that would be... Well, after last season, anything's possible, as everyone keeps saying. Yeah, I mean, and it's been built on their record at home, hasn't it? They're a completely different proposition at home than they are away. Obviously, they got a draw at Old Trafford away, but that game was easily the most ridiculous of the season. Yeah,
freakish.
But at home, they're tricky. Although Spurs went there and brushed them aside 2-0.
Yeah, and United are going to have to do something similar. I mean, every game is a must-win game. I'm not even sure if... I mean, okay, so if United win the next 7, they'll make the Champions League. Not least because they'll have beaten City, which probably will have to do. But games like this, it's there's no question, have to win this game. Have to. And so we'll have to go there positively. But you're right, they've got a decent record at home, Burnley. They're not in the relegation scrap. Maybe the edge will come off. Who knows? Probably not with United in town. And of course, there's a couple of ex-Reds in the Burnley squad.
There are. Who are Burnley's key threats, Ed?
Well, Robbie Brady, of course. Fine left foot that he has, ex-United player. Sam Vokes, not had a great season, has he? The Welsh forward, it was supposed to be better than that. Ashley Barnes, who was a fantastic teenager, if you remember that, and can, on his day, be a real threat in wide areas. Not nearly as consistent as he should have been. At the back, of course, Michael Keane has had an outstanding season. Always had it in him. I think, we always knew he was a really talented player and just didn't get the chance at United. Not sure he would have got the chance at United, to be fair, so, had to move. And of course, Tom Heaton, very fine goalkeeper, ex-United player. Of course, you could say they've got 3.5 ex-United players because Stephen Defoe will be in midfield. And as we were told many, many times, he was given a United shirt by Sir Alex himself.
The Michael Keane thing, whether or not he'd have got a chance at United, it still remains immensely frustrating that Van Gaal prioritised Blackett and McNair ahead of Keane. Remains one of the baffling man's most baffling decisions.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, for a couple of performances, Blackett looked very good, didn't he? That was about it, though, the couple of performances, and maybe he's found his level now. And McNair at Sunderland, hasn't played a lot and played in midfield when he did play. Keane, though, has looked very at home in the Premier League this season and looked very at home in the England team when he played for England recently as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's going to be a pretty challenging game for United.
Yeah.
To see anything.
We should also mention his partner in crime at the back, Ben Mee, has also had a very good season.
Yeah.
The two of them have been excellent.
Yeah, I mean they can obviously, as their away performances have shown, and the fact that they've only got 36 points this season, that they're beatable. But really it is away from home that they've struggled the most. In fact, I am going to, as we speak, if stato.com loads, I'm going to look at the table home and away.
Yeah, do that. I mean, I think the thing is that, look, they've got the crux of a very good side that doesn't always perform. Right, so in midfield they've got some decent balance. I mean, Robbie Brady will definitely give them that down the left. George Boyd, been there, done it, mainly at Championship level, of course. Hendrick can be a very talented midfielder. Can be, he's certainly good on the ball. Had a very good European Championships, didn't he, in the summer? Will Joey Barson play? Don't know, maybe. I mean, he's right up there with the most dislikable footballers, isn't he? Not challenging Diego Costa just yet, but not far off.
Yeah, I mean, if you calculate it on points per game, then Burnley are currently 7th in the league table for games just played at home. If you take it on overall points earned at home, they'd actually be 6th. Man United 9th in that table, incidentally, for points per game. Very, very, very average record. So Burnley 7th in the league on home form, and on away form, rock bottom of the league. Still not got a win away from home all season. So, it would be very good. In fact, the draw at Old Trafford was one of only 4 draws, 4 points they've got away from home this season. So
unbelievable. Well, believable, sadly.
Entirely believable.
Well, it tells you it'll be a challenging game on Sunday, not least given the sort of Thursday Sunday dynamic doesn't always work well. Sure. And, fortunately, they're 7th in that form table because United stink against the top 6. 7th down, no problem.
The kind of Thursday, Sunday thing should be way, way less of a problem than it has been, of course, because, geography favours us on this one.
They've got the mile and a half from the Lowry to Old Trafford on Thursday, and the hotel, that is, 20 miles or something on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's a 2:15 kickoff, so not too early on the Sunday. So they've got what should be ample recovery time, really, or not ample, but just about enough to get by.
Not that United are going to have a break at all between now and the end of the season. Most Wednesdays are booked up. And certainly if United beat Anderlecht, a couple more will be booked up.
A couple more Thursdays.
A couple more Thursdays. Yeah. So it's definitely going to be a challenging time physically. Yeah, if United make the Europa League final, I think, if I counted correctly, it'll be 63 games, which is the same number or one more than the 99 season.
It's a lot of games. And of course, after Burnley, and I guess this will factor heavily into Burnley, is the fact that the Wednesday after that, or maybe the Thursday, might be the Thursday night, City away. So a massive, massive run of games. But we'll be back to talk to you about the games in between and preview that City game. We might get someone to talk about that from a City perspective as well. Talk about their season a bit. It's kind of an interesting subject. So we should do score predictions. You said 2-0 Anderlecht?
2-0 Anderlecht, and let's say 1-0 at Burnley.
I'm going to go for an optimistic 2-1, but no, you know what? I'm going to tell you what I actually think is going to happen, and that's a very annoying 1-1 draw.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That's what I actually think.
Way to burst the bubble, Paul.
It doesn't mean it's going to happen, does it? I'm just giving the prediction that I actually think. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the show. It was it's lovely to talk about such a fantastic United performance again.
It certainly was. Very exciting. I almost did myself an injury celebrating the goals. Haven't actually managed to celebrate too many times with that enthusiasm this season, or in fact over the last 3 years. Not too many occasions when it's kind of felt that good. We'd like more of that. Please, Jose, if you're listening.
I really hope we get it next season. I really, really, really hope that this time next year we're talking... I mean, obviously everyone hopes this, but, it'd be so nice to be talking about a title race again.
Wouldn't it just?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just opening it up for another team, but actually, being in it ourselves. Anyway, that's a long way to go till this time next year, and a lot of rank casts between now and then. So everyone take care of yourselves. If you're a backer, stay tuned. There's more coming.
Thanks a lot. See you next week.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.